Hello, Caroline. Nice to have you with us.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. It's 3:30 in the afternoon here, so it's nearly beer o'clock, I suppose.
Nice. Almost.
Monday lockdown.
Long Monday already.
Yeah. No, but on behalf of the team, we're missing Imogen, who's had to dip out for urgent work-related business. So
Yeah.
there's usually four of us. It's myself and Pip and Dan and Imogen, but Imogen can't be with us, I'm afraid, today. But
Oh, that's okay.
you've got a quorum of us, and so we just like to say thank you for coming on board and working with us.
I'm so excited. Thanks for having me.
And Pip's going to talk to you about the EP a bit later, but I'd just like to say congrats on the EP as well. There's some wonderful, wonderful songs on there.
Thank you so much. I am so pumped. And so the full EP comes out in like a little over 2 weeks, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I'm so
Well,
excited.
that's great. And I could talk to you all day about Don't Waste My Time on that EP, but we'll come back. We'll circle back around to that.
Okay.
So it's really, really great to have you with us. You are one of the first 3 artists in our Introducers program. And I'd just like to know, what motivated you to take part and, what does it mean to be involved with us?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, when my team told me about the opportunity, I was like, this is the coolest thing. I actually have a sister who lives in London.
Right.
And so I've spent quite a bit of time there. And I've been to some of the, country music things over there. And I even went to a BBC talk one time with Whispering Bob.
Okay.
And I just think it's such a cool scene and it has so much potential. And I'd love to be a part of it in any way I can. And when I heard about what you guys are doing and kind of, wanting to shine a light on artists that you guys really believe in and, think have the potential to cross over in the UK and in Europe, I just love to be a part of that. And especially being from Switzerland, it's a little bit easier for me because I have roots over there already.
Yeah. And presumably then, because of the London connections and the Swiss connections, you're over here quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I actually was in London end of February, like right before the world shut down. And I love it. And, I've been to some shows over there too. And it's just it's such a cool music scene. And I think has so much potential.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
let's hope we can help you be part of that.
Yeah.
I'll pass over to Dan. Thanks, Dan.
Hey, Caroline, how you doing?
Hi.
Good to speak to you.
You
You just mentioned your Swiss upbringing, and I was going to ask you about that because you're half Swiss, half American, and you're also one of triplets too. So that must have made for a fascinating upbringing. Tell us a little bit about that, and also how the whole country music thing started for you.
Yeah, it's very interesting. My sisters and I and my sibling, I have a big family. And so my triplet sisters and I are from the same parents, and we have an older brother from the same parents too. And then we have step siblings and half siblings and everything. But we kind of moved to the States from Switzerland at like four or five, and kind of spent the summers in Switzerland and traveling and stuff like that. So it made for an interesting childhood in the fact that we saw a lot of different cultures from a young age. And I think that, gives you a different perspective in life in general. And also, when it comes to music and expressing yourself and kind of what you've seen and stuff like that. But it's fun. I mean, I always had someone to play with, which is the best thing ever now, being a triplet, and I didn't have to go through anything alone. But in terms of music, my mom is super musical, and she grew up singing around the house, in the grocery store, and in the car, and I would sing with her. And she's actually from the South. So my dad's from Switzerland. My mom is from the South. She was born in Florida and grew up in Georgia before moving to New York too. And so I grew up, with Shania Twain and Faith Hill and people like that in the house, along with like Celine Dion and, divas like that. So I always had love of country music from a young age and singing with her. And so I think that mixed with my exposure to different cultures and stuff is kind of how I landed where I am.
So just out of interest, is there much of an awareness for country music in Switzerland at all? Or was it a case where you just had to be in Nashville?
Yeah. So I mean, the market in Switzerland in general is quite small because it's a small country. But I would say in terms of like the South versus Switzerland, there are a lot of similarities because it's a lot of farmland. It's a lot of down home living. I mean, of course, in Switzerland, you know, humble living is a little bit different because it's a country that, you know, I don't know. The quality of life, I would say, is beautiful, and they put, you know, priorities on the same thing of everybody goes home for lunch from work and stuff like that. But there's a lot of similarities in terms of that, like, slower paced life of there are cows everywhere, and, you know, the simple things in life are really important there. And so country music isn't huge, but there is quite a scene. Like, there is actually a festival that, if it still happens, this September, that I'm playing in Stade. That's a country music festival. Okay. So I would say we have there's a lot of blues and jazz in Switzerland, but I think, you know, especially in traditional country, there are a lot of those elements too. So I would say it's more on the traditional side, but there is, you know, some stuff, you know? Yeah.
I'd like to jump back in for a moment there, Caroline. I'm really fascinated because, you know, many country artists, you know, are from the South and they don't leave the South, and, you know, many don't even have passports and stuff. So it's a fascinating life that you've led. Where were you living when you decided to move to Nashville, and what prompted that decision?
Yeah, so actually, well, it's kind of, that question is kind of like it's a two-part answer. One, I realized that I was going to school at Berkeley in Boston when I realized I wanted to do music, not in school, and I had gone from in high school already playing shows and writing to going backwards and being in school for it again after having like already done it in the real world. So I didn't think I thrived there really, even though it was an awesome place. So after that, I kind of moved back to Switzerland for a year and experimented with a bunch of different genres. So I first realized that I was doing electronic music and stuff and writing a bunch of different genres when I was living in Switzerland. And that's when I first realized, hey, I don't think this is artist me. I love writing this, but this isn't where my heart is as an artist. And I think as a songwriter, you can experiment in different genres and do everything. But as an artist, you really, I think, need to be connected with it in a different way. So that's when I first realized, I was like, I don't think I can do this here, at least in this way and in this genre. So that's when I moved back to the States, and I kind of started exploring, working with more different people. And that's when I started coming back to Nashville.
Right.
And fell in love with country music all over again. Because when you're doing electronic music and you're in a different country, I was so far removed from country music, and I hadn't been to Nashville since I was 14. So I kind of had forgotten about this world. And then when I was reintroduced to it, I just fell in love instantly. And I was like, oh, I knew I have to do this. So when I moved to Nashville, I was living in New York, but that train of thought really happened, pun intended.
Yeah.
When I was living in Switzerland, I knew it wasn't where my heart was at. So I kind of went on the search for that.
And what are the best and the worst things about living in Nashville?
Best and worst. I think Nashville is like a bubble. I think a lot of places are like that, but I do think we have sort of a bubble here in Nashville where we compartmentalize ourselves. I think sometimes, and had a tunnel vision on this town, and I think it has so much more to offer in the world, like the UK and stuff has so much more to offer. If we, you know, everybody would kind of open their doors and kind of expand it. So I think that's a growing point. With Nashville is I think there's just so much more potential to make something bigger out of it when you look at the grand scheme of how big this world is and how many people are in it and stuff like that. And I think the greatest thing about it is the community and just all of the music that's here and all of the talent that's here. I mean, it's like hard not to be inspired, you know, when you're just completely surrounded by it.
I'll pass over to you, Pip.
Okay, hi Caroline. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being part of our first ever Destination Country Introducers. We're really excited to be working with you for the next few months.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of circle back on where James started, talking about the EP. I've been listening to it a lot this weekend as well. Tell me a little bit about why you picked these 6 songs. I know that 4 of them are out there already and people have been listening to them and loving them, but why these 6 songs in particular to kind of introduce yourself?
Yeah, I think they just like connected with me on a different level. I mean, I write a lot of songs, and I actually recorded a lot of songs for this project because it was when I first moved to Nashville, and I kind of was just throwing things at the wall and seeing what stuck and where I really was as an artist at that time and where I wanted to go as an artist. And I think these 6 songs in particular, just, I think, felt like a world of their own, and like really portrayed the artist I want to be and like the world I want to live in. Whether that world fits in a box or not. But I think it shows a lot of different sides of me. And of course, as an artist, there's always something more you want to tell or show, or, you know, but I think this was like the best starting place for me. And, I'm proud of that to be my first, step, you know, as an EP in the world. I will stand behind it, you know, like fully. Which I think is important as an artist, you know, because sometimes you release stuff and you're like, we'll see what happens. And I don't know, but I really wanted, you know, my first EP to be like, this is me. This is what I like. This is who I am.
It feels very cohesive as a body of work. It does, as you say, show a lot of different sides to you. There's vulnerability on there. There's more of the tempo, the feisty stuff. I know James in particular is a massive fan of Don't Waste My Time. I think he might have WhatsApped me, I don't know how many times about that this weekend.
No way.
Dig into that track a little bit, because that's probably, out of the 6 of them, that's the one that's the most different, I think.
Yeah. So I think, and there's a lot, you know, I hope in the future to show a lot more of that kind of side and stuff. I think I gravitated more up towards the soft, nostalgic stuff with this EP, but I love it. I mean, I love being sassy, and I love saying things like in a really plain-staken way in songs, and not to kind of frill it up and confuse it, you know, in a sense. And so I think with that song, it's like very to the point, and I think that's the fun kind of it is, you know, I was thinking about it when you're kind of telling somebody off, like, what would you say? And Don't Waste My Time is a good place to start.
So how about then the songwriting side of it? Who did you work with, and how did you choose the collaborators for the project?
Yeah, so I started writing for this project in when I was still living in Switzerland. I was actually like obviously making an EP that looked very different at the time. And so when I left Switzerland, I was like, well, I still want to release a project. I just need to find who I am as an artist and who I want to say that with and where I want to say that and stuff like that. So I kind of wrote this whole project in different cities. I mean, I wrote in London too, actually. So I wrote in London, I wrote in New York, in LA, in Nashville, and of course in Switzerland. And so throughout all those writing trips and that whole, I mean, if you count Switzerland, it was like, you know, in the first year of that, it's like 3 years of writing. And I have a lot more to show too. It's not the only stuff I wrote during that time, but it's a great starting place. So anyway, on all my writing trips, I kind of, as soon as I started coming to Nashville, I fell in love with my 2 producers, Jordan Lanning and Jace Blankfort. And I really thought out of everyone I wrote with, I saw the most potential of like a long-term collaboration and them really getting my vision as an artist. And so literally, like, we wrote 5 songs in 3 days the first time I met them. And I think by the end of the trip, I was like, so what happens if I move here? And like, what would you want to work with me? By like at the end of the 3 days. And yeah, so I think as collaborators go, you just know when you know. I mean, I think it's like kind of like Love Like That in a different way. That's a great song title. You just know when you know that it feels right. And like, you know, being an artist and a songwriter is a very vulnerable thing. So you want to make sure who you know, collaborate with, you feel safe with, and like they really get you. And yeah, so I work with Jordan and with Jace, and I got to write with a ton of cool people too. Christy Fred in LA, and Tad Kubler wrote Train of Thought with me in Brooklyn. And obviously Liz Rose here in Nashville, which was a dream come true. And yeah, so it was like very much like my life. It was like, you know, a collection of, you know, stories and cities and everything, you know.
So lastly then from me, what do you want people to take away when they listen to this EP? What is kind of your overall intent, and what do you want them to feel and think? Yeah,
I mean, I think I would love for people to feel comfort and, you know, and heard and listened to, and can kind of find themselves in the songs a little bit. And even if it's just to like chill on the couch and listen and feel relaxed, or kind of, you know, blast Don't Waste My Time in the Car or Train of Thought. I just hope that they see themselves in it a little bit, and it makes them feel like everything's okay and that it's all right to be where they're at in life, even if it's not where they want to end up, you know?
Great. Well, I look forward to seeing the reception that it gets, because it is, like James said at the start, it's a really strong EP. So it's going to be exciting to see how people react to it.
Thank you so much. I'm so pumped.
So we're going to begin to wrap up the interview, Caroline, just with a couple of light-hearted segments, just so that people can get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
So Pip and Dan are going to give you a choice of 2 options, if you could say which one, and a sort of brief explanation of why you choose what you do, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, so first up, Swiss chocolate or English chocolate? What's the best?
Swiss chocolate, because duh.
Really?
Cadbury's.
Okay, Cadbury eggs are incredible, but the rest of the year, that's not Easter, Swiss chocolate.
I'll forgive you for that one.
So next choice is beer or wine?
Wine, red wine, or rosé in the summer.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Mountains or beach?
So you can tell I'm indecisive. Mountains in the winter, beach in the summer. Can't choose. Can't choose.
Okay. Night in or night out?
Night in. I'm a Netflix gal.
Yeah, I'm
and
with
like
you on that
on
one,
the balcony.
What we've got next? Taylor Swift or Shania Twain?
Taylor Swift. It's my age. I can't help it.
So we might know the answer to this one already, but Netflix or Amazon Prime?
Netflix, but Amazon Prime for everything else. Because I am, 24-hour shipping.
And lastly, songwriting or performing?
I would say songwriting, because it all starts with a song.
Good answer. I like it.
And thanks, Caroline. To wrap up what's been an absolutely delightful chat with you, and thank you for giving us your time. Could you give us your sort of Mount Rushmore of your 4 musical inspirations? If you could carve the faces of 4 of your biggest musical inspirations on the side of Mount Rushmore, who would you choose?
Yeah, this is such a hard answer, because I start thinking, I don't know if it's just me, but I kind of have artists from times of my life, and like even like 6 months or a year of my life. But if I had to choose 4, they would all be girls, because you know what I mean. I'm a lady and I love girl power. So I would say Taylor Swift, like the other answer. I grew up in the world of Taylor Swift, like if I'm being honest. And she's had so much influence in general on the whole industry. I would say Adele, a good old English gal. She is incredible. I pray to Lord Jesus that she releases another album. I don't know what the rest of my life would look like without another album from her personally. And then I would say Casey Musgraves, because me personally, I think she has had a career that I admire, and she is so inspiring, and she stands the test of time, that even if you don't go the fast and whatever route, you can still make it to where you want to go. And then I would say Sarah Bareilles, who to me is like super underrated. But she has had, especially at my time at Berkeley and stuff, she was my biggest songwriting inspiration. I mean, in vocals too, but I think she lives in a class of her own when it comes to songwriting. She wrote Gravity alone at 19.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So I think those would be my 4. I would love to see their faces on Mount Rushmore.
Well, thank you, because those are lovely answers, and it's been a lovely chat with you. And we hope to continue for the next 6 months, helping to promote your music and doing whatever we can to bring your music to the wider audience, whether it's in the UK or Europe or even America.
Yes.
So.
I'm very excited. Thank you so much for having me.